The bridal suite smelled like gardenias and lies. I stood before the full-length mirror watching a stranger smile back at me. She wore ivory silk that cost more than my first car, her dark hair swept into an elaborate updo that had taken 3 hours and 4 mimosas to complete. Behind her, through the gauze curtains, sunlight poured across arrangements of white roses and peonies that filled the room with their cloying sweetness. "You look absolutely perfect," my mother whispered, adjusting the delicate lace at my shoulder. Her eyes were wet, happy tears that made my throat tight. Perfect. I'd built my entire career on that word. As a senior sales consultant at Eclat, San Francisco's most exclusive boutique, I'd mastered the art of perfection. The perfect smile, the perfect pitch, the perfect way to make a tech wife or venture capitalist feel seen while gently guiding them toward a $12,000 handbag. I could read a client's insecurities in the way they touched fabric, could transform their doubts into desire with just the right compliment, delivered with just the right warmth. But standing there in that dress, I wondered if I'd been selling myself the same way I sold Italian leather and French couture. My phone buzzed on the vanity. I reached for it absently, expecting another well-wish from a guest downstairs. The screen was cracked. I dropped it rushing out of the rehearsal dinner last night, too eager to get to Ethan, to kiss him goodnight even though tradition said we should be apart. The text message loaded slowly, as if the universe wanted to give me one more second of blissful ignorance. "Ethan, I'm sorry, Maya. I can't do this. I'm in love with someone else. We've left together. Please don't try to find me." Before we continue, please write in the comment which country you are watching this video. We love knowing where our global family is tuning in from. And if this is your first time on this channel, please subscribe. Your support helps us bring even more epic revenge tales of life. Enjoy listening. The words didn't make sense at first. They floated on the screen like random letters, a puzzle my brain refused to solve. I read them again. Then again. Behind me, my bridesmaids laughed at something, the sound bright and oblivious. Someone sprayed more perfume, something expensive that Ethan had given me for my birthday. The scent hit my throat like poison. "Maya." My mother's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Honey, what's wrong?" The phone slipped from my fingers. It hit the marble floor with a sharp crack, the screen splintering into a starburst pattern that seemed almost beautiful. I watched it happen in slow motion, the way you watch a car crash you can't prevent. "He's not coming," I heard myself say. My voice sounded strange, flat. "Ethan's not coming." The room went silent except for the classical music drifting up from the ceremony space below, where 200 guests were already seated, already waiting, already checking their watches and whispering about whether the bride was fashionably late or just late. Sarah, my maid of honor, picked up my phone. I watched her face change as she read the message, watched the color drain from her cheeks. She looked at me with something that might have been pity or might have been horror. I couldn't tell anymore. "There has to be a mistake," she said, but her voice wavered. "Maybe it's a joke? A really, really bad joke." I wanted to laugh. Ethan Hale, venture capitalist, amateur triathlete, the man who'd proposed to me at sunset on a Napa vineyard with a ring that cost more than most people's yearly salary, that Ethan didn't make jokes. Especially not bad ones. My mother swayed. I moved automatically to catch her, and that simple motion seemed to unlock something in my body. Suddenly I could feel everything at once. The tightness of the bodice, the weight of the veil, the ridiculous heels that made my feet throb. The dress that had made me feel like a princess 2 minutes ago now felt like a straitjacket. "I need to sit down," my mother said, her face gray. But there was no time to sit. The door burst open and Ethan's best man, Trevor, rushed in, his face flushed and sweaty despite the air conditioning. "Is it true?" he demanded, looking at me like I was responsible for this, like I'd somehow caused my own fiancé to vanish on our wedding day. "Did he really?" "Get out," Sarah snapped, stepping between us. "This is the bridal suite. Get the hell out." But I could see the answer in Trevor's eyes. He knew. Maybe he'd known for longer than I had. The thought made my stomach turn. "Who is she?" My voice came out stronger than I expected. The text said someone else. "Who?" Trevor's eyes darted away. "Maya, I don't think." "Who?" He swallowed hard. "Vivian Duval." The name hit me like a physical blow. Vivian Duval. Media heiress. Professional socialite. The kind of woman who appeared in society pages wearing vintage Chanel and discussing her philanthropic work for orphans in developing countries while sipping champagne. I'd met her exactly once at a charity gala where Ethan had introduced us. She'd looked at me the way I sometimes caught my wealthiest clients looking at the sales staff, with vague, pleasant dismissal. Like I was part of the scenery. How long? I asked. Why, how long has this been going on? Trevor's silence was answer enough. My mother made a small sound, something between a gasp and a sob. I wanted to comfort her, wanted to hold her and tell her it would be okay, but I couldn't move. I was frozen in that moment, in that dress, in that room that smelled like gardenias and betrayal. Someone's phone rang. Then another. Then 3 more, a cascade of buzzing and chiming that made everyone reach for their pockets. Oh God, one of my bridesmaids whispered, staring at her screen. What? Sarah moved to look over her shoulder, then froze. No. No, no, no. She held up her phone. On the screen was a video, grainy, vertical, clearly shot on someone's iPhone. It showed me standing in this room in this dress, reading that text message. It showed the exact moment my phone had slipped from my fingers. It showed my face as understanding crashed over me like a wave. Someone had been filming. Someone in this room, someone I trusted, had recorded my private devastation, and the video had 43,000 views. In the 3 minutes since Ethan's text, 43,000 people had watched me realize my fiancé had abandoned me at the altar. By the time I made my way downstairs, still in the dress because what else was I supposed to wear, the number had climbed to 200,000. The next 72 hours existed in a fog of humiliation so thick I could barely breathe through it. The wedding venue still charged us full price. The caterers, the florist, the band, everyone wanted their money, and my mother had already paid most of it on her credit cards because Ethan had insisted his family would reimburse her after the wedding. His family's checks never came. The video went viral in the way only true suffering can. Entertainment blogs picked it up. Bride abandoned at altar. The footage will break your heart. Gossip sites added commentary. Society wedding disaster. Tech bro ditches sales girl for heiress. Sales girl. As if my career at Eclat was something cute, something trivial. As if I hadn't fought my way up from the stockroom to the main floor, hadn't learned to speak the language of the ultra-rich so fluently that they forgot I wasn't one of them. My phone, the cracked one because I couldn't afford to replace it yet, never stopped buzzing. Messages from friends I hadn't spoken to in years, all wanting the inside story. Reporters asking for interviews. And worst of all, the screenshots people kept sending me. Ethan and Vivian's Instagram posts, carefully curated to show their new love. There they were at the airport, Vivian's Hermes luggage arranged artfully in the frame. There they were in what looked like a Maldives resort, her designer bikini and his abs both glowing in the sunset. The captions were vague but pointed. When you know, you know. Following my heart. New beginnings. Each post had tens of thousands of likes. People left comments like, "You two are perfect together," and "True love always wins." No one seemed to remember, or care, that their perfect love had started with public humiliation and a shattered wedding. I stopped going on social media. Then I stopped checking my email. Then I stopped leaving my apartment except to visit my mother in the hospital. The stroke had come 3 days after the wedding. She'd been at home trying to field calls from relatives asking about refunds for plane tickets, when she'd collapsed. The doctors said it was minor, that she'd recover with physical therapy, but the bills were already piling up and her insurance had limits. I sat beside her hospital bed holding her hand, the left one because the right still wasn't working properly, and calculated how much I'd need to work to cover everything. The wedding debt. The medical bills. My rent, which I'd let slide assuming Ethan and I would be moving into his condo after the honeymoon. The math didn't add up. Even with my commission rate at Eclat, even working every single day, I couldn't make the numbers work. "I'm sorry," my mother whispered, her words slightly slurred. I should have seen." "Don't," I said, squeezing her hand gently. "None of this is your fault." But her eyes were full of tears and I knew she blamed herself for loving him, for trusting him, for believing that a man like Ethan Hale would actually marry someone like me. I'd believed it too. That was the worst part. I'd actually thought I'd transcended the invisible boundaries of class and money, thought that my charm and my carefully cultivated sophistication had been enough to carry me into a different world. Now I knew the truth. I'd been a temporary amusement. A placeholder. Someone to date while Ethan figured out how to win over the heiress he'd really wanted all along. The nurse came in to check vitals and I stepped out into the hallway. My phone buzzed. Another crack had appeared in the screen, spreading like a web from the original impact point. The message was from an unknown number. She planned it, you know. Did you really think you were special? I stared at the words, my heart hammering. Before I could respond, another message came through. Check Vivian's blog from 6 months ago. The one about manifesting true love. Count how many details match your engagement. My hands were shaking as I pulled up Vivian's website, because of course she had a lifestyle blog because women like her always did. The post was dated February 14th, Valentine's Day, 6 months before Ethan proposed to me. In it, Vivian described her ideal romance in dreamy, detailed prose. A whirlwind courtship. A proposal at sunset in wine country. A summer wedding. My engagement had happened in March. Ethan proposed at sunset in Napa. We'd set the wedding for August. I scrolled through her Instagram, my pulse racing. There, buried in the comments of a post from April, 1 month after Ethan proposed to me, was a brief exchange. At Vivian Duval, patience is a virtue. Good things come to those who wait. At Ethan Hale, some things are worth waiting for. They'd been connected that whole time. Planning this. While I was choosing flowers and tasting cake and dreaming about our future, they were orchestrating my humiliation. The phone slipped in my sweaty grip. I caught it just before it hit the ground, watched the cracked screen flicker and blur. For a moment I wanted to throw it against the wall, wanted to watch it shatter completely. Instead I took a screenshot of the messages. Evidence. Though evidence of what, I wasn't sure yet. I was still standing in that hallway staring at my damaged phone when I got the call from Margot, my manager at Eclat. Maya, darling, she said, and I could hear the insincerity dripping from every syllable. I'm so sorry to do this now, but we need to talk about your position here. My stomach dropped. What about it? Well, there's been an incident. A client complaint. What client? I'd rather discuss this in person. Can you come in tomorrow? Say 10 a.m. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell Margot exactly where she could shove her darling and her concern. But I needed this job. I needed it desperately. I'll be there, I said. The call disconnected. I looked down at my phone again at the spiderweb cracks spreading across Vivian's perfect face. Something cold and sharp was forming in my chest. Something that felt like the opposite of the crushing despair I'd been drowning in. It felt like clarity. Like purpose. If they wanted to destroy me, they were going to have to work harder than a viral video and some Instagram post. I wasn't done yet. The incident at Eclat turned out to be a setup so obvious it would have been laughable if it wasn't destroying my life. I arrived at 10 a.m. exactly, wearing my best work outfit. A tailored black dress that I'd bought on employee discount months ago, paired with heels that made my feet scream but added 3 inches to my height. Armor, essentially. Margot was waiting in her office, her expression professionally sympathetic in that way that meant she'd already made her decision and was just going through the motions of pretense. Maya, thank you for coming, she said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. I know this is a difficult time for you. I sat, keeping my spine straight, my hands folded in my lap. What's this about, Margot? She slid a paper across the desk. It was a printed email, the kind of formal complaint wealthy clients sent when they wanted to make sure their dissatisfaction was documented. I recognized the name at the top immediately, Victoria Strand. One of our biggest clients. A tech CEO's wife who spent approximately $50,000 a month at Eclat on clothes she wore once and then donated for the tax write-off. The complaint was about me. According to Victoria, I had been aggressive and inappropriate during her last visit, pressuring her to make purchases she didn't want, and making her uncomfortable with personal comments about her appearance. Every word was a lie. I'd sold Victoria a Valentino gown 2 weeks ago, had been nothing but professionally charming, had even stayed late to arrange for same-day alterations because she needed it for an event that weekend. She'd left happy, had even mentioned she'd recommend me to friends. This is fabricated, I said, looking up at Margot. None of this happened. Victoria is a valued client. Who is friends with Vivian Duval? I watched Margot's face carefully. I saw them tagged together at a charity luncheon last month. Margot's expression flickered. Just for a second, but I caught it. Maya, your personal life is being weaponized against me professionally. I stood up, my hands gripping the edge of her desk. You know this is false. You know Victoria and I had a perfectly pleasant interaction. But you're going to fire me anyway because she's threatening to pull her business. I'm not firing you, Margot said, and I almost laughed at the semantic game. I'm placing you on unpaid leave pending investigation. Investigation of what? A lie. Of multiple complaints. She pulled out another folder. We've received 3 more in the last 2 days. All citing similar concerns about your conduct. Let me guess. All from clients connected to Vivian or her family. Margot stood too, her professional mask slipping just enough for me to see the truth underneath. She knew exactly what was happening and she was choosing to let it happen anyway. Because women like Vivian had power and women like me were expendable. Clear out your locker today, she said quietly. Security will escort you. The walk through the store was its own kind of death. My colleagues, women I'd worked alongside for 5 years, had trained, had covered shifts for, had shared breaks and gossip and dreams with, they all looked away as I passed. No one met my eyes. No one said goodbye. The security guard who escorted me out was at least kind enough to look embarrassed about it. I stood on the sidewalk outside a claw, holding a box with my nameplate and a framed photo of me and my mother, and watched people hurry past without seeing me. The fog was rolling in early, turning the afternoon gray and cold. My phone buzzed. Another crack had spread across the screen, bisecting my own face in the lock screen photo. The message was from that same unknown number. You're making this too easy. Where's the fight? I stared at those words for a long time. Then I opened my message app and typed a response. Who are you? 3 dots appeared, dancing. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Someone who thinks you deserve better than to go down without swinging. Check your email. My inbox had a new message from an encrypted account. No name, no subject line. Just a video file. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the download button. This could be anything, malware, another humiliation, a trap. But I was already at the bottom. How much further could I fall? I downloaded the file. The video was security footage from what looked like an upscale restaurant. The timestamp showed a date from 3 weeks before my wedding. In the frame, Ethan and Vivian sat across from each other at an intimate corner table, their heads close together, their hands intertwined. The footage had audio. I turned up the volume, pressed the phone close to my ear. Telling her this week, Ethan was saying, his voice low but clear. You promised last week. Vivian sounded petulant. I'm tired of waiting, tired of pretending. I need the timing to be right. If I do it too soon she might. Might what? Get suspicious? Ethan, she's a sales girl. She'll believe whatever you tell her because she's desperate to believe she belongs in your world. My hands started shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. After the wedding, Ethan said. I'll do it on the wedding day. Maximum impact for minimum effort. Her humiliation will be so complete she won't have the energy to fight back legally. And my father's lawyers are ready? Ready to bury any claim she might make on the ring or gifts or anything else. Trust me, by the time we're done, she'll be so grateful to just disappear quietly. Vivian laughed, a sound like crystal breaking. You're terrible. I love it. The video ended. I stood there on that sidewalk, commuters flowing around me like water around a stone, and felt something fundamental shift inside my chest. The grief and shame and self-doubt that had been crushing me for days. It didn't disappear, but it transformed into something else. Something harder. Something sharp enough to cut. They'd planned this. Not just the affair but the method. The public humiliation. The timing. They'd weaponized my own wedding day, had turned my happiest moment into entertainment, had calculated exactly how to destroy me so thoroughly I wouldn't be able to fight back. They'd underestimated me. My phone rang. An unknown number, but not the one that had been texting me. Hello. Paya Carter? The voice was male, older, with a rough edge that suggested too many years and too many cigarettes. My name is Oliver Hayes. I'm a television producer and I'd like to talk to you about an opportunity. I almost hung up. I'd already gotten calls from trashy talk shows wanting me to cry on camera, from podcasters wanting to dissect my pain for content, from reality TV producers hoping to monetize my misery. Not interested, I said. Hear me out. I saw the video. Yes, that video, the one everyone saw. And I saw something the algorithm chasers missed. What's that? Authenticity. He paused. I produce a morning show segment on consumer products. Home shopping basically, but classier. We're always looking for personalities who can sell, who can connect. Your sales record at Eclat is impressive and you've got name recognition now whether you want it or not. Come on the show. Sell some products. Make some money. You want to exploit my viral humiliation to sell cookware? I want to give you a platform and a paycheck. What you do with it is up to you. Another pause. Look, I'm not going to pretend this is charity. This is good TV. But it's also a chance for you to control your own narrative instead of letting them write it for you. Think about it. He gave me his number and hung up. I looked down at my phone at the cracked screen that made everything look fractured and wrong. At the video of Ethan and Vivian planning my destruction like it was a game. Control my own narrative. I thought about my mother in that hospital bed. About the bills. About the message asking where my fight was. Then I thought about Vivian's face on my phone screen, beautiful and cruel and so certain she'd won. I pulled up Oliver Hayes' contact and typed a message. I'm in. When do we start? The response came back in seconds. Oliver, Monday. 6 a.m. Don't be late. I put my phone in my pocket and started walking. I didn't know where I was going yet, but I was moving forward. That was enough for now. The television studio smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. I arrived at 5:47 a.m. 13 minutes early, because I'd learned long ago that punctuality was the cheapest form of respect you could offer. The building was in a rundown part of the city where morning fog clung to everything like a wet blanket, and the security guard looked half asleep as he checked my ID against a list. 3rd floor, he mumbled. Elevator's broken. Stairs are to your left. Of course the elevator was broken. I climbed 3 flights in heels I'd polished the night before, carrying my cracked phone and what remained of my confidence. The studio itself was smaller than I'd imagined. A single sound stage with camera equipment that looked older than me, and a set designed to look like someone's living room if that someone had terrible taste and no budget. Oliver Hayes was exactly what his voice had promised. Late 50s, gray hair that needed a trim, wearing jeans and a blazer that had seen better decades. He was talking to a camera operator when I walked in, but he looked up immediately, his eyes sharp despite the early hour. Maya Carter, he said, crossing to me with an outstretched hand. Thanks for coming. His handshake was firm, professional. No pity in his eyes, just assessment. I appreciated that more than he could know. Thanks for the opportunity, I said, keeping my voice steady. Don't thank me yet. This is live television. You'll have 8 minutes to sell a set of kitchen knives to an audience that's half asleep and mostly skeptical. Think you can do it? 8 minutes. At Eclat, I'd had hours to work a client, to build rapport, to identify their needs and desires and gently guide them toward a purchase. 8 minutes was nothing. Yes, I said. Oliver smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Good. Because if you can't, this experiment ends today and we both go back to our respective failures. Makeup is through that door. You're on in 40 minutes. The makeup artist was a woman named Roxanne who'd clearly seen everything and been impressed by none of it. She sat me down in a chair that squeaked and started working on my face with efficient, impersonal touches. You're the wedding girl, she said. Not a question. I'm Maya. Sure, honey. She dabbed concealer under my eyes. You know this is a bad idea, right? Going on TV this soon after that. Probably. Oliver's a good guy, but he's desperate. This show's been dying for 3 years. He thinks controversy will save it. She tilted my chin up, studying her work. Just so you know what you're walking into. I met her eyes in the mirror. What if I'm desperate too? Roxanne's expression softened slightly. Then I guess you're perfect for each other. Hold still. By the time she was done, I looked like a more polished version of myself. Still recognizable but enhanced. Professional. The kind of woman who could sell you something and make you feel good about buying it. I looked like the old Maya, the one who'd existed before a text message had shattered her into pieces. Oliver appeared in the doorway. 5 minutes. You ready? Oh, yes. The set was blindingly bright under the studio lights. I stood behind a counter with the knife set arranged in front of me. 7 gleaming blades in various sizes, their handles a cheap-looking marbled plastic. The kind of product you'd see on late-night infomercials, promising to change your life for 3 easy payments of $29.99. A production assistant clipped a microphone to my collar. The host, A woman named Jennifer with aggressively blonde hair and a smile that looked painted on, took her position across from me. "Just follow my lead," she said, not looking at me. "And try not to freeze up. The cameras are unforgiving." A countdown started. 5, 4, 3, 2. The red light on the camera blinked on and suddenly we were live. "Welcome back." Jennifer's voice transformed, becoming warm and energetic in a way that felt almost violent. "We have a very special guest today. Maya Carter, who many of you might recognize from recent events, is here to show us an incredible kitchen innovation." "Maya, welcome." The camera swung to me. Somewhere in the city people were watching. Maybe hundreds. Maybe thousands. Maybe no one at all. My mouth went dry. The lights were too bright. My hands felt clumsy as I reached for the first knife. "Thank you for having me, Jennifer," I said, and my voice came out thin, uncertain. "This was a mistake. I wasn't ready for this. I couldn't." "So tell us about these knives," Jennifer prompted, her smile growing fixed. I looked down at the knife in my hand. The blade caught the light, throwing tiny reflections across the counter. In one of those reflections I could see my own face, distorted and small. Just like in that cracked phone screen. Just like in the viral video. Just like I'd been for weeks. Small, distorted, someone else's entertainment. Something snapped inside me. "These knives," I said, my voice suddenly stronger, "are terrible." Jennifer's smile flickered. Behind the cameras I saw Oliver lean forward. "I'm sorry," Jennifer said. "Look at them. Cheap plastic handles. Blades that'll need sharpening after a week. The kind of product that promises to change your life but ends up in a drawer, forgotten." I set the knife down carefully. "I've spent 5 years selling luxury goods to people who can afford the best. These aren't the best. They're not even good." The studio had gone completely silent. Jennifer looked like she was having a stroke. "But," I continued, meeting the camera lens directly, "they're honest. They cost $49 for a set of 7. You know exactly what you're getting. Functional tools that will do the job if you don't expect miracles. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes honest mediocrity is better than beautiful lies." My hands weren't shaking anymore. My voice was clear. 3 weeks ago I was supposed to get married. You've all seen the video, I know you have. My fiance texted me that he was in love with someone else and left me at the altar. It was the most humiliating moment of my life, and it was captured on camera and shared with the world. Jennifer had given up on her script. She was just staring at me now, along with everyone else in the studio. "I thought my life was going to be perfect," I said. "I thought I was marrying into a world where everything was beautiful and expensive and real. But it was all lies wrapped in designer labels. He was never going to marry me. He was using me as a placeholder while he pursued someone with the right last name, the right connections, the right bank account." I picked up the knife again. "These knives won't lie to you. They won't pretend to be something they're not. They'll cut your vegetables and wash clean and cost less than a single therapy session. And trust me, you'll need those therapy sessions more." A laugh bubbled up from somewhere in the studio. Then another. "So if you want them, buy them. If you don't, that's fine too. But at least they're real. At least they're honest about what they are." I set the knife down with a soft click. I wish I could say the same about my engagement ring. For a moment nothing happened. The camera stayed on my face, catching whatever expression I was wearing. I had no idea what I looked like, how this was playing. Then Oliver started clapping. Slow at first, then faster. The crew joined in, a ripple of applause that felt surreal under the hot lights. Jennifer found her voice. "Well, that was certainly honest. The number to order is on your screen. We'll be right back after this commercial break." The red light went off. I stood there, my heart hammering, wondering if I'd just committed career suicide on live television. Oliver was grinning. "That," he said, crossing to me, "was the best 8 minutes of television this show has produced in years." "I went off script," I said, my voice shaking now that the cameras were off. "I talked about my personal life. I called your product terrible. You were authentic. You were real. You made people feel something." He pulled out his phone, his grin widening. "And look, the call center's lighting up. People are buying those terrible knives." By noon, the segment had been clipped and shared across social media. This time the comments were different. "She's right. Sometimes honest mediocrity beats beautiful lies. I bought the knives just to support her. She's got guts. This is what real looks like. respect. There were still cruel comments, still people mocking me, still plenty who thought I was pathetic. But there were also people defending me, relating to me, seeing something in my breakdown that resonated. Oliver called me at 12:47 p.m. Can you come back tomorrow? Same time. For what? Cookware. Small appliances. Whatever we can get you in front of. The producer wants a week trial minimum. If the numbers hold, we'll talk about something more permanent. I thought about my bank account, which had $37 in it. About the hospital bills. About my mother asking when I'd find another job. I'll be there, I said. That night, I sat in my apartment. A studio in a building where the heat barely worked and my neighbors fought loud enough to shake the walls, and scrolled through the comments on my phone. The screen was so cracked now that I had to navigate around the broken sections, turning it at odd angles to read. A new message appeared from the unknown number. Better. But they're already planning their countermove. Watch Vivian's Instagram tomorrow. I wanted to ask again who was sending these messages, but I'd learned they never answered that question. Instead I typed, what kind of countermove? The kind that makes you look crazy instead of sympathetic. Be ready. I set the phone down and stared at my ceiling, where a water stain had spread into a shape that looked vaguely like a continent. My upstairs neighbor was playing music, something with heavy bass that made my cheap furniture vibrate. This apartment was supposed to be temporary. Ethan and I were going to move into his place in Pacific Heights, with its view of the bay and its doorman and its marble everything. I'd already started packing, had already given notice. Then he'd left and I'd had to beg my landlord to let me stay, had signed another lease with money I didn't have. Now I was selling kitchen knives on a dying morning show, taking advice from an anonymous texter, and waiting for whatever attack Vivian had planned next. My phone buzzed again. Not the unknown number this time. A text from Sarah, my former maid of honor, the first I'd heard from her since the wedding. Saw you on TV. You were amazing. I'm sorry I haven't called. I didn't know what to say. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. It's okay. I get it. Sarah, no, it's not okay. You needed people and we all disappeared. I disappeared. I'm sorry. Me, why didn't you call? The three dots appeared and disappeared several times before her response came through. Sarah, honestly, I was embarrassed. For you but also for me. I introduced you to Ethan. I vouched for him. I told you he was a good guy. And I was wrong and I didn't know how to face that. So even my friends had made my humiliation about themselves. I wanted to be angry but I was too tired. He fooled everyone. Not your fault. Sarah, can I buy you coffee? I want to apologize properly. And I want to help if I can. I almost said no. Almost told her it was too late, that I'd already learned who my real friends were by their absence. But I needed allies. And Sarah, for all her faults, had known me since college. She'd been there before Ethan, before Claw, before I'd learned to be someone else. Me? Tomorrow afternoon? After my segment? Sarah, I'll be there. And Maya? I really am proud of you. That took guts. I set the phone down and closed my eyes. Tomorrow I'd sell more products to half-asleep viewers. Tomorrow I'd meet Sarah and see if our friendship could survive my catastrophe. Tomorrow I'd check Vivian's Instagram and find out what fresh hell she had planned. But tonight, just for a moment, I let myself feel something close to hope. It didn't last long. Vivian's countermove dropped at 6:23 a.m., 17 minutes before I was supposed to go on air. I was in the makeup chair again when my phone exploded with notifications. Roxanne paused mid-brush stroke, frowning at my expression. What's wrong? I couldn't answer. I was staring at Vivian's Instagram post, feeling ice spread through my chest. The photo was artfully composed. Vivian in soft morning light, wearing an oversized sweater that probably cost more than my rent, her face free of makeup in that way that required expensive skincare and good genetics. She looked vulnerable. Approachable. The caption was a masterpiece of manipulation. I've stayed silent while being vilified, but I can't anymore. The truth, Maya and I were friends. She introduced me to Ethan at a charity event, told me how unhappy she was, practically pushed us together. When he finally got the courage to be honest about his feelings, she turned it into a spectacle. I'm heartbroken that our friendship ended this way, but I can't let her lies continue. Sometimes love happens when you least expect it. I won't apologize for finding mine. #truth matters #moving forward. Below the post were screenshots. Messages that appeared to be between Vivian and me. They showed me complaining about Ethan, saying I was having doubts about the wedding, even one where I supposedly said I thought Vivian and Ethan would make a cute couple. The messages were fake. They had to be fake. I'd never said any of those things, had barely exchanged more than pleasantries with Vivian. But they looked real. The formatting was perfect. The timestamps were consistent. Someone had gone to a lot of trouble to fabricate evidence that I'd orchestrated my own humiliation. The comments were already pouring in. I knew there was more to the story. So she's crazy and manipulative? Girl, get help. She's literally making this up for attention. Pathetic. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Roxanne steadied my shoulder. Honey, you need to breathe. She's lying, I said, my voice coming out strangled. Those messages, I never sent those. We barely knew each other. I believe you. No one else will. Roxanne met my eyes in the mirror. Then you go out there and tell the truth. As many times as you need to. But how could I prove a negative? How could I prove I hadn't sent messages that looked exactly like something I might have sent? Oliver appeared in the doorway. You're on in 5. Are you? He stopped, seeing my face. What happened? I held up my phone. He read the post, his expression darkening. This is a targeted attack, he said quietly. Professional. Someone's helping her. Her father, I said. He owns half the media companies in the state. He could have people who specialize in this. Can you still go on? I wanted to say no. I wanted to run out of that studio and keep running until I found somewhere no one knew my name or my face or my story. Said I stood up. Yes. You don't have to address this directly, Oliver said. We can stick to the product. Keep it simple. No. I checked my reflection one last time. The cracked phone screen made my face look fractured, like a puzzle put together wrong. If I don't respond, people will assume she's telling the truth. I have to say something. Then say it carefully. Don't get emotional. Don't attack her. Just state your truth and move on. I nodded, but I wasn't sure I could follow that advice. I was so angry I could barely see straight. The product today was a set of non-stick pans. I stood behind the counter as the countdown started, watching the red light blink to life. Jennifer's smile was more cautious today. Welcome back, Maya. I have to ask, have you seen Vivian Duval's post this morning? So much for sticking to the product. I have, I said, keeping my voice level. She claims you were friends, that you encouraged the relationship. Is that true? No. I picked up one of the pans, needing something to do with my hands. I met Vivian Duval once, briefly, at a charity event. We were not friends. We did not exchange the messages she posted. Those are fabricated. That's a serious accusation. Yes, it is. Just like accusing me of orchestrating my own public humiliation is a serious accusation. I met the camera directly. But I can't prove I didn't send messages that were created to look like mine. I can't prove a conspiracy without evidence. All I can do is tell you what I know to be true. I loved my fiancé. I trusted him. And when he left me, it destroyed me. My voice cracked slightly. I cleared my throat, forced myself to continue. These pans are non-stick. That's what they're designed to do. Let things slide off them easily. I wish I could do that with lies and attacks and fake screenshots. I wish I could just let it all slide off and move on. I set the pan down. But I can't. Because I'm human and this hurts, and pretending it doesn't would be the biggest lie of all. Jennifer looked uncertain, glancing off camera toward Oliver. The pans are $49.99, I continued. They're decent quality. They'll work for most home cooking. They're not the best on the market, but they're honest about what they are. I paused. Unlike some people. The segment ended with Jennifer looking flustered and me feeling like I might throw up. Oliver caught me as I stepped off the set. That was risky. I know. It might backfire. I know. But it was also brave. And real. He pulled out his phone. The lines are lit up again. Half the callers want to yell at you. The other half want to defend you. Either way, they're calling. So I'm good for ratings. You're good for truth, he corrected. And truth is good for ratings. Come on, we need to talk about next steps. His office was a closet-sized room filled with old equipment and stacks of paper. He cleared a chair for me and sat behind a desk that wobbled. They're going to keep coming at you, he said. Vivian, her father, probably Ethan too once he figures out you're not going quietly. You need to be ready for a sustained campaign. I don't know how to fight people with unlimited resources. You fight with the truth. You fight by being so honest they can't twist it. You fight by making people care about you more than they care about the drama. He leaned forward. I want to offer you something more permanent. A daily segment, just you. Not selling products. Well, not just selling products. Talking. About anything. Your story, other people's stories, whatever feels right. Like a talk show? Like you. Just being you, unfiltered. He smiled slightly. The network executives will hate it. It's risky and weird and probably won't work. But maybe it will. Maybe people are tired of polish and want something real. I thought about the viral video about standing in that bridal suite watching my life shatter. About the cracked phone I couldn't afford to replace. About Vivian's perfect lies and my imperfect truth. When would we start? Next week if you agree. We'll keep the morning slot, expand it to 15 minutes. Trial basis, 4 weeks. If it works, we negotiate something longer term. And if it doesn't? Then we both tried something different and it didn't kill us. He extended his hand. What do you say? I looked at his hand, weathered and steady. Then I looked at my phone, at the notifications still pouring in, at the cracked screen that made everything look broken. Maybe broken was honest. Maybe broken was what people needed to see. I shook his hand. I'm in. I met Sarah at a coffee shop 3 blocks from the studio, a place that served overpriced lattes to people who worked in tech and finance and wore their stress like expensive accessories. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with 2 cups in front of her. She'd ordered my drink, a vanilla latte with extra foam, the way I'd always gotten it in college before I'd learned to drink espresso like the Eclat clients. Hi, she said, standing awkwardly. I wasn't sure if your order had changed. It hasn't, I said, sliding into the booth. Some things stay the same. We sat in uncomfortable silence for a moment. Sarah looked good. Her hair was shorter than I remembered and she'd lost weight, the kind of weight loss that comes from stress rather than intention. She worked in marketing for a startup that kept threatening to either go public or go bankrupt, and the uncertainty showed. I saw both segments, she finally said. You're incredible up there. Fearless. I'm terrified. It doesn't show. Good. I wrapped my hands around the warm cup. That's the point. Maya, I really am sorry. For not calling, not visiting, not being there when. I know. You said that already. She flinched. Right. Sorry. I sighed. Sarah, I don't want apologies. I want to know why. Why you disappeared. Why everyone disappeared. Was I really that toxic? That embarrassing? No. God, no. She ran her hands through her hair. I didn't know what to say. Every time I picked up the phone to call you, I froze. What could I say? I'm sorry your fiancé abandoned you? I'm sorry I told you he was one of the good ones? I'm sorry I helped plan a wedding that turned into a nightmare. You could have said any of that. I know. I should have. Her eyes were wet. But I was also scared. Of what? Of Vivian. Of her family. Of what would happen if I publicly supported you. She looked down at her coffee. My company does business with Duval Media. Not directly but through subsidiaries. My boss warned me. Off the record, just a friendly heads up, that associating with you could impact our contracts. I set my cup down carefully, afraid I might throw it. So you chose your job over your friend. I chose to keep my job so I don't end up sleeping on my sister's couch and defaulting on my student loans. I hate that I had to make that choice, but I did. She met my eyes. And I'm still making it. If anyone asks, you and I aren't close anymore. We had a falling out after the wedding. I can't be seen publicly supporting you. The words hit like a slap. Then why are we here? Because privately, off the record, in ways that can't be traced back to me, I want to help. She pulled out a folder from her bag. I work in marketing. I know how narratives are built and destroyed. I know what Vivian's team is doing and I can help you counter it. I looked at the folder but didn't reach for it. At what cost to you? Hopefully nothing. I'm being careful. But Maya, they're planning something bigger. The fake messages were just the start. There's a whole campaign coming, coordinated, professional, designed to make you look unstable. How do you know this? Because I've worked on campaigns like this. Not this ugly but the same principles. Discredit the target, isolate them, make them seem unreliable, then move in for the kill with something that sticks. She pushed the folder toward me. This is everything I could find about Vivian's digital footprint from the last year. Social media patterns which PR firms her family uses, connections between journalists who've written about this story. I opened the folder. Inside were printouts, screenshots, notes in Sarah's neat handwriting. Why are you doing this? I asked. Because you're my friend. Because I should have done it 3 weeks ago. And because, she hesitated. Because I'm tired of people like Vivian winning just because they have money and connections. I'm tired of watching good people get crushed while garbage people get celebrated. I leafed through the papers. One page caught my eye, a timeline of Ethan's social media activity, cross-referenced with Vivian's. Sarah had marked everywhere their digital lives had intersected over the past year. They'd been commenting on each other's posts since last Christmas, liking photos, having subtle, public conversations that looked innocent but added up to something more. And I'd never noticed. I'd been so focused on wedding planning, on work, on being the perfect fiancé that I'd missed all the signs. Don't do that, Sarah said softly. Do what? Blame yourself. This isn't your fault. I should have seen it. He didn't want you to see it. That's the whole point. They were careful enough to hide it and obvious enough to rub it in your face later. She pointed to one of the screenshots. Look at this comment from 8 months ago. She posted a photo from that charity gala, the one where you met her, and he commented, "Some nights change everything." I remembered that night. Ethan had been distant during the event, checking his phone constantly. I'd thought he was stressed about a deal at work. They were playing a game, I said quietly. And I was the obstacle they had to get around. You were a person they used and discarded. There's a difference. My phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number. Check your email. Sent you something useful. I opened my email. A new message from the same encrypted account that had sent me the restaurant video. This time there were 3 attachments, audio files. What is it? Sarah asked. I don't know yet. I downloaded the first file and pressed play. Vivian's voice came through, tinny but clear. Plan is working perfectly. She looked pathetic on TV, exactly like we wanted. My father's team is drafting the next wave. We'll have her looking completely unhinged by the end of the week. Another voice, male, younger. And if she has actual proof of anything? She won't. We've been too careful. And even if she did, who would believe her? She's a jilted ex with an axe to grind. We're sympathetic victims of her obsession. The file ended. I sat there, my heart pounding, while Sarah stared at me with wide eyes. Holy shit, she whispered. Who sent you that? I don't know. Someone who wants to help, I think. Or someone who wants to use you to hurt Vivian. Does it matter? It's evidence. Real evidence that she's orchestrating this whole thing. It's also possibly illegal depending on how it was obtained. You can't just release secretly recorded audio. Sarah's marketing brain was clearly working. But you can use it to know what's coming. To stay one step ahead. I played the second file. More of the same. Vivian and her team planning attacks, discussing which journalists to feed stories to, mapping out a timeline that would bury her completely within 2 weeks. The third file was different. It was Ethan and Vivian arguing. I didn't sign up for this, Ethan was saying. I thought we'd just leave, start over. I didn't know you were going to destroy her. Oh please. You knew exactly what this was. You wanted access to my family's network, and I wanted to prove I could take something from someone who thought she deserved it. Don't pretend you have a conscience now. She's getting sympathetic press. The morning show thing is working for her. Which is why we escalate. My father's already making calls. She'll be done by the end of the month. No job, no credibility, just another crazy ex-girlfriend that everyone feels sorry for until they get bored. What if she fights back? Vivian laughed. With what? She's broke, isolated, and everyone thinks she's either pathetic or insane. She has no power here, Ethan. She never did. The recording ended. I realized my hands were shaking again. Not from fear this time, from rage. Why, Sarah's voice seemed distant. Talk to me. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, I said slowly, that she's right. I don't have power. Not the kind she has. Money, connections, media influence. I looked up at Sarah. But I have truth. And I have footage of her admitting she's trying to destroy me. You can't release that. The legal implications. I won't. Not yet. I closed the folder, my mind racing. But I can use it to know exactly what's coming. I can stay ahead of their moves. I can be ready. Ready for what? For war. I stood up, grabbing my bag. Sarah, I need you to help me map out their timeline. Everything you know about narrative campaigns, about controlling stories. I need to know it all. Maya, this is dangerous. These people have serious resources. I know. But they're also arrogant. They think I'm already beaten. They're not expecting me to fight back. I pulled out my cracked phone. And they definitely not expecting me to win. Sarah looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Hey, let's burn it all down. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Really smiled. Yeah, I said. Let's. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and a Twitter trend with my name in it. Hashtag Maya Carter's Unhinged was trending at number 4 nationally. I sat up in bed, my heart already racing, and scrolled through the tweets. Someone had leaked footage, grainy, clearly shot on a phone, of me from yesterday afternoon. I was outside the coffee shop with Sarah, and I was gesturing emphatically, my face twisted in what could have been anger or determination or both. The caption on the original post read, "Caught Maya Carter having a public meltdown. Sources say she was threatening legal action against everyone who's ever wronged her. Girl needs help, not a TV show." The video had no audio. You couldn't hear what I was actually saying, which had been me telling Sarah my plan to fight back strategically. But without context, it looked exactly like what they claimed. An unhinged woman spiraling out of control. The comments were brutal. She's literally proving Vivian's point. Someone get this woman a therapist, not a microphone. I felt bad for her at first, but now she just seems crazy. My phone rang. Oliver. Tell me you've seen it, he said without preamble. I've seen it. The network wants to pull your segment. They're worried about liability, about associating with someone who's becoming, their words, increasingly erratic. I closed my eyes. What did you tell them? I told them to give me 48 hours. I told them your ratings gold and canceling you now would be idiotic. He paused. I also told them you're one of the most sane people I know, which might have been overselling it given that we've known each other for less than a week. Despite everything, I almost laughed. What happens in 48 hours? You go on air and you show them you're not falling apart. You show them strength, composure, control. Can you do that? I thought about the audio files, about Vivian's voice casually discussing my destruction like it was a business strategy. About Ethan's weak protests that meant nothing, changed nothing. Yes, I said. I can do that. Good. Because if you can't, we're both out of a job. After we hung up, I sat in bed and forced myself to think clearly. This was the escalation the audio files had warned about. They were going to make me look unstable, isolate me further, destroy any sympathy I'd built. I needed to flip the script. But how? My phone buzzed. The unknown number. They're watching you. Literally. Check the tree outside your building, northeast corner, about 15 feet up. I went to my window and looked out. The building across the street had a clear view into my apartment. And in the tree on the northeast corner, barely visible among the leaves, was a small camera. Someone was surveilling me. Waiting for me to do something they could use. I stepped back from the window, my skin crawling. How long had it been there? What had they already recorded? Me, who are you? Why are you helping me? For once they answered. Unknown. Someone who knows what it's like to be destroyed by powerful people. Someone who thinks you might actually be strong enough to fight back. Don't prove me wrong. Me, what should I do about the camera? Unknown. Leave it. If you take it down, they'll know you found it and find another way. Better to control what they see. Me, how do I do that? Unknown, by being boring. No more emotional conversations in public. No visible anger. Be so normal and composed that they can't use anything against you. Starve them of content. It was good advice. I screenshotted the conversation, then deleted the messages like I'd started doing with all communications from this number. Whoever they were helping me, but I still didn't fully trust them. I spent the rest of the day being aggressively normal. I went to the grocery store and bought vegetables. I did laundry in the building's dingy basement. I visited my mother in the hospital, where her speech was getting better but her right hand still wouldn't cooperate properly. You look tired, she said, her words slightly slurred but clearer than last week. I'm fine, Mom. You're on television. Looking tired. She squeezed my hand with her working one. They're being mean to you. Some people are. Some people are nice. That girl. Vivian. She's lying. I know. Everyone knows. They just pretend. My mother's eyes were fierce despite the stroke's lingering effects. You're better than all of them. Always have been. I kissed her forehead. I love you. Love you more. Now go. Be fierce. On my way out, I stopped by the hospital billing office. The woman behind the desk looked at me with recognition and something that might have been pity. I saw you on TV, she said. The knife thing. You were really brave. Thank you. I handed her my credit card. I want to make a payment on my mother's account. He ran the card. It declined. Try this one, I said, handing her another card. Also declined. I had one more card, the emergency one I'd been avoiding using because the interest rate was predatory. That one went through for a $200 payment that barely made a dent in the total. The woman printed a receipt and handed it to me without meeting my eyes. Professional courtesy, pretending not to notice my humiliation. I walked out of the hospital into fog so thick I could barely see across the street. Somewhere in that fog maybe someone was photographing me, recording me, waiting for me to break. I pulled out my phone and called Sarah. I need to know how to look perfect, I said. How to control every single thing about how I present myself. No more candid moments, no more unguarded reactions. I need to be flawless. That's not sustainable, Sarah said. You'll crack eventually. Then I'll crack in private. But in public I'm going to be exactly what they're not expecting, completely in control. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Hey, come to my place tonight. I'll show you everything I know about image management. Sarah's apartment was in a nicer part of the city than mine, a one-bedroom with actual heating and windows that closed properly. She'd set up her laptop on the kitchen table surrounded by energy drinks and notebooks. Okay, she said, pulling up a presentation. This is Image Management 101. Everything I've learned from working with executives who need to seem trustworthy while actively screwing people over. Cheerful. Effective. She clicked to the first slide. Rule 1. Control the narrative by controlling your reactions. People can't twist your words if you give them nothing to twist. Short, prepared statements only. Practice them until they feel natural. She walked me through it. How to pause before speaking, how to smile at the right moments, how to make eye contact with cameras. How to dress in solid colors that photographed well, how to wear minimal jewelry that wouldn't distract, how to do my own makeup in a way that looked professional but approachable. You're already good at reading people, she said. From your sales work. This is just applying those same skills to a camera instead of a client. We practiced for hours. She would throw scenarios at me, hostile questions, baiting comments, provocative statements, and I would respond with calm, measured answers that gave nothing away. Vivian says you encouraged her relationship with Ethan. True or false? False. I met her once, briefly. We were not friends. But can you prove that? I can't prove a negative, but I'm confident in my truth. You look angry in this photo. Were you threatening legal action? I was having a private conversation with a friend. The photo lacks context, which seems to be a theme in this situation. By midnight, I was exhausted but felt more prepared. Sarah sent me home with a folder of notes and a reminder to get at least 6 hours of sleep. Your segment is in 6 hours, she said. Don't drink alcohol, don't doom scroll Twitter, and don't let them see you sweat. I took an Uber home. I couldn't afford it, but I also couldn't risk being photographed on public transit looking tired or disheveled. The driver recognized me. You're that girl, he said. From the wedding. I'm Maya, I corrected gently. Right, Maya. Sorry. I just wanted to say, my wife left me last year. Took the kids, took half of everything. I know it's not the same, but I get it. The humiliation. It's the worst part, you know? Worse than losing them. I met his eyes in the rearview mirror. I'm sorry that happened to you. Thanks. And hey, for what it's worth, I think you're handling it better than I did. I just got drunk and angry. You're out there fighting. That takes guts. When he dropped me off, he refused to let me tip him. You keep that money. Buy yourself something nice. I walked into my building feeling fractionally less alone. The camera was still in the tree. I didn't look at it directly, just walked inside like I had no idea it was there. My apartment felt claustrophobic after Sarah's place. I changed into pajamas, set my alarm for 4:30 a.m. and tried to sleep. Instead, I lay awake thinking about tomorrow's segment. About the network executives who wanted to cancel me. About Vivian and her team watching, waiting for me to fail. At 3 a.m. I gave up on sleep and got up. I made coffee, did my makeup following Sarah's instructions, and practiced my talking points in the mirror. By the time I arrived at the studio, I looked perfect. Poised. Professional. In control. Roxanne looked me over with approval. You did this yourself? A friend taught me. Well, tell your friend she's good. You look ready for war. Good, I said. Because I am. The segment started the same way it had all week. Jennifer introducing me, the camera finding my face, that moment of performance anxiety before my training kicked in. But this time, Oliver had changed the format. Maya, Jennifer said, we've received a lot of calls this week. People want to talk to you. Not about products, about everything. So today we're trying something new. We're taking live calls. My stomach dropped, but I kept my expression neutral. I'm happy to talk to anyone who wants to call. The first caller was a woman from Ohio. Her voice came through tinny and nervous. Hi Maya. I just wanted to say thank you. My husband left me 6 months ago, and watching you be so honest about your pain has helped me feel less alone. Something loosened in my chest. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry you're going through it. How are you doing now? Better. Some days. Your thing about honest mediocrity, that really resonated. I'm just trying to get through each day, you know? I do know. And that's enough. Getting through the day is enough. We talked for 2 minutes. About healing, about the unexpected kindness of strangers, about learning to be okay with not being okay. When the call ended, I could see Oliver off camera, giving me a thumbs up. The second caller was less friendly. Yeah, hi. I think you're making a spectacle of yourself for attention. Vivian posted those messages. Everyone saw them. Why are you still pretending to be the victim? I took a breath, channeling everything Sarah had taught me. I understand why you'd think that. The messages look real. But I know my truth, I didn't send them. I can't force you or anyone to believe me. All I can do is be honest about my experience and let people decide for themselves. So you're calling Vivian a liar? I'm saying those messages don't reflect any conversation I had. Whether that makes her a liar or means she was misled by someone else, I don't know. The caller hung up unsatisfied. But I'd stayed calm. Reasonable. I'd given them nothing to twist. 3 more callers. 2 supportive, 1 hostile. I handled each one the same way. Honest but measured, emotional but controlled. When the segment ended, Jennifer looked impressed. That was incredible. The phone lines are still lit up. People want more of this. Oliver pulled me aside as soon as we were off air. The network just called. They want to extend your trial. 4 more weeks, 5 days a week. Same format, live calls, real conversations, you being you. What changed their minds? The ratings. And the fact that you just proved you can handle anything thrown at you. He grinned. You're not going anywhere, Maya Carter. Not unless you want to. I should have felt triumphant. But all I felt was tired. My phone buzzed as I was leaving the studio. Not the unknown number this time. A text from an actual contact. Ethan, we need to talk. Please. I know I have no right to ask, but there are things you don't understand. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I blocked the number and deleted the text. Whatever he had to say, I didn't need to hear it. The next 2 weeks fell into a rhythm. Every morning at 6 a.m. I went on air and talked to strangers about heartbreak, betrayal, resilience. I sold products in between, kitchen gadgets, cleaning supplies, organizational tools. But the real draw was the conversations. People called to share their stories. Divorces. Affairs. Public humiliations of their own. I listened. I empathized. I shared what I'd learned about surviving when survival seemed impossible. The show got picked up for local syndication. Then regional. My face appeared on billboards advertising the network. The money still wasn't great. Oliver's budget was limited, but it was enough to keep paying my mother's medical bills and my rent. Vivian went quiet for a while. Her Instagram showed a carefully curated European vacation. Paris, Rome, Barcelona. Ethan appeared in some photos, looking uncomfortable in designer clothes that didn't suit him. The attacks didn't stop though. They just got more sophisticated. A gossip blogger published an investigative piece about my time at Eclat, featuring anonymous sources who claimed I'd been fired for stealing inventory. Completely false, but impossible to disprove when the sources were anonymous. Someone created a parody Twitter account, @MayaCarterMeltdowns, that posted exaggerated versions of things I'd said, taken out of context. It gained 50,000 followers in 3 days. A tabloid ran a story claiming I was dating Oliver, complete with a photo of us leaving the studio together that they'd captioned "New Romance." Each attack was carefully designed to make me look unstable, opportunistic, or both. But I'd learned to expect it. Every morning, I checked Sarah's analysis of what they were planning. Every night, I reviewed footage of myself to see what I could improve. I became a student of my own image, learning to control every microexpression, every inflection. It was exhausting, but it was working. The turning point came on a Thursday morning, 3 weeks into my extended contract. I was on air taking calls as usual, when a woman's voice came through that made my blood run cold. "Hi Maya. This is Vivian." The studio went dead silent. I could see Oliver sit up straight off camera, his expression shocked. "Hello Vivian," I said, keeping my voice level even as my heart raced. "What would you like to talk about?" "I think it's time we cleared the air. Publicly. I'm tired of this back and forth in the media. Can we have an actual conversation?" It was a trap. It had to be a trap. But I couldn't refuse without looking like I was afraid of her. "I'm happy to have a conversation," I said carefully. "What's on your mind?" "First, I want to apologize. Not for falling in love with Ethan. I can't apologize for my feelings. But for how it happened. For the pain it caused you. That was never my intention." He sounded sincere. Vulnerable. The audience would eat it up. "Thank you for saying that," I said. "I appreciate the apology. I also want to address the messages I posted. I've been informed that they may have been doctored by someone on my team who thought they were helping me. I believed they were real, but I'm now questioning that. This was new. This wasn't in the script I'd been expecting." "Are you saying you were misled?" I asked. "I'm saying it's possible. I trusted people who may not have had my best interests at heart." She paused. "I'm realizing now that you and I have more in common than I thought. We've both been hurt by people we trusted." It was a masterful pivot, turning herself into a victim too, creating equivalency between my public humiliation and her, what? Her guilt. "I appreciate you calling," I said, choosing my words carefully. "I think complicated situations rarely have simple villains and victims. We're all just people making choices that affect other people." "Exactly. And I hope we can both move forward without all this animosity." "I'm not sure it's animosity," I said. "I think it's hurt. And hurt takes time to heal." "Of course. I understand. Thank you for hearing me out, Maya." The call disconnected. Jennifer was staring at me with her mouth slightly open. The crew looked stunned. "Well," I said into the camera, "that was unexpected." The phones exploded. Everyone wanted to weigh in. Was Vivian sincere? Was I too forgiving? Was this a setup? Oliver caught me as soon as we went to commercial. What the hell just happened? I have no idea. But it felt wrong. Too polished. Too strategic. "You think she's planning something?" "I know she is. That was too perfect, too public. She's repositioning herself as the reasonable one." My phone buzzed. The unknown number. "Check your email. Now." I opened my email with shaking hands. Another audio file, time-stamped from this morning, 2 hours before Vivian's call. I plugged in headphones and listened. Vivian's voice. "The call will make me look gracious and mature. It'll take the heat off us and make her look petty if she keeps attacking. My father's team has the next phase ready to launch next week. The Real kill shot. But this buys us goodwill first." A male voice, not Ethan. "What if she doesn't take the bait?" "She will. She's desperate for resolution. For closure. She'll want to believe I'm being genuine." Vivian laughed. "And when we strike, no one will see it coming." The file ended. I looked up at Oliver. "We need to prepare. Whatever they're planning, it's coming next week. And it's going to be bad." "How bad?" I thought about Vivian's voice, so confident in my destruction. "Career-ending bad," I said. "Maybe worse." The attack came on Monday morning at 6:47 a.m., exactly 11 minutes before I was supposed to go on air. A journalist from a major news outlet published an exposé with the headline, Maya Carter's Past, a Pattern of Manipulation and Deception. The article claimed to have interviewed multiple sources from my past, former classmates, co-workers, even an ex-boyfriend from college. According to these anonymous sources, I had a history of lying, manipulating situations to my advantage, and playing the victim when things didn't go my way. There were specifics. A story about me supposedly plagiarizing a paper in college, false. A claim that I'd gotten a co-worker fired at a claw by making false accusations, completely fabricated. An ex-boyfriend saying I'd faked a pregnancy to trap him, never happened. Each lie was specific enough to sound plausible, vague enough to be hard to disprove. But the real poison was at the end. Financial records showing I'd recently received a large payment from an unnamed entertainment company. The implication was clear. I was being paid to keep this drama alive, to milk my victimhood for profit. The payment was real. It was my advance from the network for the extended contract. But the way the article framed it made it look like hush money or payment for a performance. I sat in the makeup chair, reading and rereading the article on my cracked phone screen, feeling everything I'd built start to collapse. Why? Roxanne's voice was gentle. Honey, you need to breathe. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt too tight. The studio felt too small. Everything was too much. Oliver appeared in the doorway. His face told me he'd seen it too. Can you go on? He asked. I don't know. The network is getting calls. Advertisers are threatening to pull out. They want a response. What kind of response? Either a denial or a cancellation. Your choice. My hands were shaking. I set my phone down before I could drop it again, before I could watch it shatter into even more pieces. Everything in that article was a lie. But how could I prove it? The sources were anonymous. The records were taken out of context but technically accurate. It was a perfect assassination, built on a foundation of truth just solid enough to make the lies seem credible. I need 5 minutes, I said. Oliver nodded and left. Roxanne squeezed my shoulder and gave me privacy. I pulled out my phone and called Sarah. She answered on the first ring. I saw it, she said immediately. Maya, I'm so sorry. This is what I was afraid of. They're using sophisticated opposition research tactics. This is corporate warfare. How do I fight this? You can't. Not directly. Denying it makes you look defensive. Ignoring it makes you look guilty. They've boxed you in perfectly. So I just let them destroy me? No. You change the game. You stop playing defense and go on offense. Her voice was fierce. Maya, you have those audio files. Use them. They're illegally obtained. I can't prove where they came from or if they're authentic. So don't release them yourself. Leak them to a journalist. Anonymously. Let someone else verify and publish them. That's exactly what they're doing to you. Fight fire with fire. I closed my eyes. I don't want to be like them. Then you'll lose. Is that what you want? To be noble and destroyed? I want to be honest. Honest is dead, Maya. Honest gets you viral video and death threats and hospital bills you can't pay. Strategic is what survives. I wanted to argue. But I thought about my mother in that hospital bed. About the medical bills. About rent I could barely afford. About the career I was building being torn down by people with unlimited resources and no conscience. I'll think about it, I said. Think fast. You've got 4 minutes until you're on air. I hung up and looked at myself in the mirror. My makeup was perfect. My hair was camera ready. I looked composed and professional. I looked like a lie. The unknown number texted. Unknown. Go on air. Tell the truth about what you know. All of it. Don't hold back. Me, that's suicide. Unknown. It's war. And you're losing by playing safe. Time to risk everything. I had 2 minutes. I could call in sick. I could read a prepared statement denying everything. I could do what Sarah suggested and leak the audio files anonymously. Or I could burn it all down. I stood up, smoothed my dress and walked onto the set. Jennifer looked relieved to see me. Maya, are you ready to address? I need to show you something, I said. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the broadcast system. I'm going to play audio that was sent to me anonymously. I can't verify its authenticity and I don't know how it was obtained. But I think people deserve to hear it. Oliver was frantically shaking his head off camera. The producers were probably having heart attacks in the control room. But the red light was on. We were live. I hit play. Vivian's voice filled the studio. The plan is working perfectly. She looked pathetic on TV, exactly like we wanted. I played all 3 files. Every word of Vivian discussing my destruction. Every casual cruelty. Every strategic calculation. When the audio ended, the studio was silent. I received these recordings from someone I don't know, I said, looking directly into the camera. I can't tell you if they're real or doctored. Just like I can't prove the messages Vivian posted about me were fake. Just like I can't disprove anonymous sources in a hit piece published today. My voice was steady. Clear. What I can tell you is this. I'm tired of fighting shadows. I'm tired of defending myself against lies while being told I need to prove my truth. So here's my truth. Unvarnished, imperfect, possibly career-ending. I took a breath. I loved a man who used me. I was humiliated publicly. I've spent weeks trying to rebuild my life while powerful people work to destroy it. I don't know who sent me these recordings. I don't know if they're admissible in any legal sense. But they match everything I've experienced. They sound like the truth I've been living. My phone was vibrating on the desk. Probably the network, probably Oliver, probably everyone telling me to stop. I didn't stop. Vivian Duval called me last week to apologize. It sounded sincere. The recording I just played was made the same morning before that call. Draw your own conclusions. Why? Jennifer tried to interrupt. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to question what you're being told. To wonder who benefits from these narratives. To consider that maybe, just maybe, the woman who's been crying on your TV screens every morning isn't the villain in this story. I disconnected my phone from the system. That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening. The camera cut to commercial. Oliver was already storming toward me. What the hell were you thinking? He demanded. The network is going to crucify you. Crucify us. I know. Then why? Because I'm done being afraid. I met his eyes. Fire me if you need to. I understand. He stared at me for a long moment. Then, incredibly, he started laughing. Fire you? Maya, you just made the single ballsiest move I've ever seen in television. We're either about to get sued into oblivion or you just won the war. He shook his head. I honestly don't know which. My phone was exploding with notifications. Twitter was losing its mind. The article's author was already posting angry responses. Vivian's PR team was issuing statements. And buried in all of that noise was a text from Sarah. Sarah, holy shit. You actually did it. You're either a genius or insane. Me, can't I be both? Sarah, apparently. Check the trending topics. I did. Hashtag Maya Carter Truth was trending nationally. Hashtag Vivian Duval Exposed was right behind it. The war had officially begun. The next 72 hours were chaos. Vivian's lawyers sent cease and desist letters claiming the audio was fraudulent and demanding I reveal my source. The network suspended me pending an investigation. 3 major news outlets requested interviews. And then the tide started to turn. A former employee of Duval Media came forward anonymously, confirming that Vivian's father ran a dedicated reputation management team that specialized in destroying inconvenient people. The employee provided emails, documents, proof of coordination. A journalist verified the audio files using forensic analysis. They were authentic. The ex-boyfriend who'd supposedly told that story about me faking a pregnancy? He posted on social media that he'd never spoken to any journalist and threatened to sue for defamation. One by one, the anonymous sources from the hit piece either recanted or were proven to have financial ties to Duval Media. The narrative was collapsing. But so was I. I spent 3 days in my apartment, curtains drawn, ignoring most calls. My mother was being discharged from the hospital. Good news that felt hollow when I didn't know if I'd have a job to pay for her follow-up care. Sarah came over with groceries and wine. You need to eat, she said, unpacking food into my mostly empty refrigerator. And you need to decide what comes next. I don't know what comes next. I'm suspended. I might be sued. I definitely made powerful enemies. You also might have one. She handed me a glass of wine. Have you watched the news? People are on your side. Really on your side. There are protests outside Duval Media headquarters. Advertisers are pulling out of Vivian's brand partnerships. You sparked something. I don't feel like I won. Because you're in the middle of it. Trust me, from the outside you look like you just slayed a dragon. My phone rang. Oliver. Turn on channel 7, he said without preamble. I found the remote and turned on my tiny TV. A legal analyst was discussing my case. Unprecedented situation where we're seeing a David and Goliath story play out in real time. Regardless of the legal questions around how those recordings were obtained, they've fundamentally shifted public perception. Vivian Duval is facing serious questions about her character and her family's business practices. The analyst continued, and Maya Carter, who was days away from complete professional destruction, has somehow turned this into a referendum on power, truth, and who gets to control narratives in our society. Oliver came back on the line. The network wants to bring you back. With a raise. What? Turns out controversy is very profitable. Your suspension lasted just long enough to build suspense. They want you back tomorrow. Prime time. Full hour. And they're calling it the Maya Carter Truth Hour. I should have felt victorious. Instead I felt empty. Oliver, I need to know. Am I being brought back because they believe in me or because I'm profitable now? He was quiet for a moment. Does it matter? Yes. Then honestly, both. They believe you're profitable because people believe in you. It's symbiotic. That's depressing. That's television. Are you in or out? I looked around my apartment. At the cracked phone on my coffee table. At Sarah watching me with hopeful eyes. At the reflection of myself in the dark TV screen. Tired, uncertain, but still standing. I'm in, I said. But on one condition. Name it. I want full editorial control. No scripts. No producers telling me what I can or can't say. Just me being honest. They'll never agree to that. Then I walk. I'm done being anyone's puppet. Oliver laughed. You're going to be a nightmare to work with, aren't you? Probably. Good. I'll call you back in an hour. He hung up. Sarah was grinning. You did it, she said. You actually did it. I haven't done anything yet. This could still fall apart. It won't. You know why. She raised her glass. Because you stopped trying to win on their terms. You made your own game. We clinked glasses. The wine was cheap and slightly sour, but it tasted like possibility. My phone buzzed. The unknown number for what I somehow knew would be the last time. You're stronger than they thought. Stronger than you thought. Don't waste it. And one more thing. Check your email. Final gift. The email contained a single document. A complete map of Duval Media's corporate structure, highlighting shell companies, financial irregularities, and a pattern of payments to tabloids and reputation management firms that went back years. It was evidence of a systematic operation to destroy anyone who threatened the family's interests. At the bottom was a note. Give this to the right journalist. The one who cares about truth more than access. You'll know who. Me, who are you? Unknown. Someone who was destroyed by them years ago. Someone who's been waiting for the right person to finish what I couldn't. Thank you for being that person. The number went dark after that. When I tried to call it, I got a message that it was no longer in service. Whoever my anonymous ally had been, they were gone. But they'd given me the final weapon I needed. I gave the document to Marcus Chris, an investigative journalist known for taking down corrupt corporations. He'd been blacklisted by most major outlets for refusing to kill stories about powerful people, so he worked independently now. This is explosive, he said when we met at a coffee shop 2 days later. If even half of this checks out, we're looking at RICO implications. Organized harassment, financial fraud, possibly racketeering. How long until you can verify it? 2 weeks, maybe 3. I need to cross-reference everything, find sources who'll go on record. He looked at me seriously. Maya, publishing this will make what you've been through look like a warm-up. The Duval family will come after you with everything they have. They already have. Not like this. This is existential for them. They'll try to destroy you completely. I thought about my mother, whose speech was improving every day. About Oliver, who'd taken a chance on me. About the strangers who called into my show to share their pain and find solidarity. About the woman I'd been in that bridal suite, watching her phone shatter on marble floors. That woman was gone. Whoever I was now, I was stronger. Publish it, I said. Whatever happens, publish it. Marcus smiled grimly. All right. Let's burn it all down. The story broke on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after I'd handed Marcus the documents. The headline read, "The Duval Machine, How a Media Empire Weaponized Reputation Destruction." Marcus had done his homework. He'd verified every shell company, tracked every suspicious payment, interviewed former employees who'd finally found the courage to speak on record. The article detailed a pattern of systematic harassment going back 15 years. Journalists threatened, competitors smeared, inconvenient people destroyed. And my case was just the most recent example. Within hours, federal investigators announced they were opening an inquiry into Duval Media's business practices. The SEC started asking questions about financial irregularities. 3 board members resigned. Vivian's Instagram went dark. My phone rang at 7 a.m. A number I didn't recognize, but something made me answer. Paya Carter? The voice was female, cultured with an edge of steel underneath. This is Charlotte Duval, Vivian's mother. I sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. Mrs. Duval. I'm calling to propose a meeting. Face to face. Just you, me and my daughter. No lawyers, no press, no recordings. A conversation. Why would I agree to that? Because despite what you think, we're not monsters. We're a family protecting our interests, and things got out of hand. I'd like to find a resolution that doesn't destroy everyone involved. Your daughter tried to destroy me. And you've done considerable damage in return. So we're even. Now we can keep fighting until lawyers are the only ones who profit, or we can be adults about this. I wanted to refuse. Wanted to tell her exactly where she could put her offer. I was tired. So tired of fighting. Where and when? I asked. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. Duval Estate in Pacific Heights. Come alone. She hung up before I could respond. I immediately called Sarah. She answered groggily. Do you know what time it is? Charlotte Duval just called me. She wants a meeting. Sarah was suddenly alert. Don't go. It's obviously a trap. Maybe. But what if it's not? What if there's actually a way to end this? Maya, these people don't negotiate in good faith. They'll try to intimidate you, probably record you saying something they can use against you, maybe even. I'm going. Then I'm coming with you. She said alone. I don't care what she said. You're not walking into the dragon's lair without backup. Sarah's voice was fierce. I'll wait outside. But I'm not letting you do this alone. The Duval estate was exactly what I'd expected. A mansion in Pacific Heights with a view of the bay, the kind of old money fortress that made even wealthy people feel inadequate. The gate was wrought iron and probably cost more than my annual salary. I pressed the intercom button. A voice crackled through. Name. Paya Carter. The gate swung open silently. Sarah was parked down the street in her car, her phone on and ready to call the police if I didn't text her every 15 minutes. We'd argued about the wisdom of this meeting for hours last night, but ultimately she'd recognized what I'd already accepted. I needed to face them. A housekeeper met me at the door and led me through rooms decorated with the kind of casual elegance that took generations to perfect. Original artwork on the walls. Antique furniture that belonged in museums. Every surface gleaming with professional care. She showed me to a sitting room where Charlotte and Vivian were waiting. Charlotte Duval was in her late 50s, elegant in the way that came from good bones and better cosmetic work. She wore cream-colored slacks and a silk blouse, pearls at her throat. She looked like she'd never broken a sweat in her life. Vivian sat beside her mother on a velvet sofa, and I almost didn't recognize her. She wore no makeup, her hair was pulled back simply, and she looked younger than I'd ever seen her. Vulnerable even. Paya, Charlotte said, standing to shake my hand. Thank you for coming. Please sit. I sat in a chair across from them, keeping my spine straight, my expression neutral. Everything Sarah had taught me about image control was working overtime. Can I offer you something to drink? Charlotte asked. Tea? Coffee? I'm fine, thank you. Let's dispense with pleasantries then. Charlotte folded her hands in her lap. You've done significant damage to my family's reputation and business interests. The investigation alone will cost us millions regardless of the outcome. Your family tried to destroy my life. Yes, we did. Charlotte's directness was almost shocking. And we're prepared to make amends for that. Financial compensation. A public apology from Vivian. Assistance in rebuilding your career beyond what you've already accomplished. In exchange for? Your silence. You agree to stop cooperating with investigators, decline all media requests about this situation, and sign a non-disclosure agreement about everything that's happened. I looked at Vivian. She was staring at her hands, not meeting my eyes. Does she have anything to say? I asked. Charlotte glanced at her daughter. Vivian. Vivian finally looked up at me. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. I'm sorry. For all of it. I thought it was a game, taking something from someone who I thought didn't deserve it. I didn't see you as a real person. I saw you as an obstacle. To what? To having what I wanted. Then yes, but more than that. A story. A romance that would make me the heroine instead of just another trust fund baby with nothing real in her life. She laughed bitterly. Ironic, right? I destroyed your real life to create my fake one. It was the most human I'd ever heard her sound. Where's Ethan? I asked. Gone, Vivian said. He left 2 weeks ago. Turns out when things got complicated, he wasn't interested in standing by me any more than he was interested in standing by you. So you both got played. Pretty much. She wiped her eyes. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. But it's true. Charlotte cleared her throat. We're prepared to offer you $5 million. Tax-free, structured as a settlement. In exchange for your signature on the NDA and your agreement to cooperate with making this entire situation disappear quietly. $5 million. I could pay off my mother's medical bills. Buy her a house. Never worry about rent again. Start over somewhere new where no one knew my story. I could have everything I'd lost and more. All I had to do was let them win. No, I said. Charlotte's perfectly maintained composure slipped slightly. I'm sorry. No. I won't sign an NDA. I won't stop cooperating with investigators. And I won't help you make this disappear. I stood up. Because this isn't about me anymore. It's about every person your family has destroyed. Every journalist you've threatened. Every competitor you've buried. Every inconvenient truth you've paid to suppress. Laya, be reasonable, Charlotte started. I am being reasonable. You're asking me to value $5 million over the truth. Over justice. Over accountability. I looked at Vivian. Your apology might even be genuine. But it doesn't change what you did. And it doesn't entitle you to walk away like nothing happened. You realize you're making a powerful enemy, Charlotte said, her voice cooling. The investigation might not find anything actionable. Our lawyers are very good. And when this is over, we'll remember who stood against us. I'm sure you will. I walked toward the door, then turned back. But I'll remember something too. I'll remember that I stood up to you. That I chose truth over money. And I'll sleep better because of it. I walked out of that mansion, past the artwork and antiques and glittering wealth, and felt lighter than I had in months. Sarah was waiting in her car. She saw my face and started the engine. How bad? She asked as I got in. They offered me $5 million to go away. Holy shit. And you said? No. Sarah pulled out into traffic, shaking her head. You're either the bravest person I know or the stupidest. Can't I be both? She laughed. Yeah. I guess you can. The federal investigation took 8 months. During that time I kept doing my show. The Maya Carter Truth Hour became one of the network's highest-rated programs. People called in to talk about corporate abuse, toxic relationships, power imbalances. I listened. I shared my own continuing journey. I tried to create space for honest conversation in a world that increasingly felt like performance. Marcus published follow-up articles tracking the investigation. More former employees came forward. Financial records were subpoenaed. The evidence kept mounting. Vivian disappeared from public life entirely. Her Instagram stayed dark. Tabloids occasionally spotted her going into therapy appointments or leaving her mother's estate, but the glamorous socialite persona was gone. Ethan tried to contact me twice. Once through a lawyer, once through a mutual acquaintance. Both times I declined to respond. Whatever he had to say, I didn't need to hear it. My mother recovered fully from her stroke. With my salary from the show, I was able to move her into a nice assisted living facility where she attended art classes and flirted with the widowers. She watched my show every morning and called to tell me what I could have done better. The unknown number never contacted me again. I spent weeks trying to trace it, but whoever they were, they'd covered their tracks completely. Sometimes I wondered if they'd been another victim of the Duval machine, getting vicarious justice through my fight. Sometimes I wondered if they'd been someone inside the organization with a conscience. Mostly I just felt grateful. Sarah and I rebuilt our friendship. She quit her marketing job and started her own consulting business, helping small companies compete against corporate giants. We had coffee every week, sometimes talking about strategy, sometimes just talking about life. Oliver became more than my producer, he became my friend. The success of my show revitalized his career. Networks that had written him off started calling again. But he stayed with me, said he liked working with someone who actually meant what they said. And then, on a cold morning in February, the investigation concluded. The Department of Justice announced criminal charges against 3 Duval Media executives for conspiracy, wire fraud, and violations of federal RICO statutes. Civil charges were filed against the company itself. The SEC imposed massive fines for financial irregularities. Charlotte Duval resigned as CEO. The board forced the family to divest significant holdings. The empire didn't collapse completely, but it was wounded. Badly. Vivian wasn't charged criminally. Prosecutors determined she'd been a participant in but not an architect of the larger conspiracy. But the court of public opinion was less forgiving. Her brand partnerships were gone. Her social capital evaporated. She'd have money, trust funds couldn't be easily seized, but her influence was finished. I was in the studio when the news broke. Oliver came running in waving his phone. "They did it," he said. "They actually did it. Charges filed. The Duvals are going down." I should have felt triumphant. Vindicated. After months of fighting, I'd won. Dad, I felt sad. "What's wrong?" Oliver asked. "Nothing. Everything." I set down my coffee. "I'm not sure there are winners here. Just different degrees of losing." "You won. You stood up to them and won." "Did I? Or did I just become what I was fighting against? Someone who destroys people publicly?" "That's not the same thing at all." "Isn't it? Vivian's life is ruined. Her family's legacy is destroyed. Yes, they did terrible things. Yes, they deserved consequences. But I can't feel good about it." Oliver sat down beside me. "You know what separates you from them? They destroyed people for profit and control. You sought justice. There's a difference." "I hope so." My phone rang. A number I didn't recognize but local. "Hello. Pia Carter?" The voice was professional, female. "This is Catherine Price from the San Francisco DA's office. We'd like to speak with you about providing victim testimony in the Duval case. Would you be available to meet this week?" Victim testimony. After everything, I was still defined by what had been done to me. "Yes," I said. "I'll be there." The trial was scheduled for 6 months later. In the intervening time, I tried to build a life that wasn't defined by revenge or recovery. I started a foundation to help people dealing with public humiliation. Legal assistance, media training, mental health support. I used my platform to amplify other voices, other stories. I went on dates, though most of them ended awkwardly when the person asked about that whole wedding thing. I started therapy, working through trust issues and processing trauma. I replaced my cracked phone finally, though I kept the old one in a drawer. A reminder. And I prepared to testify. The prosecution warned me it would be difficult. Vivian's lawyers would try to discredit me, make me look vindictive or opportunistic. They'd bring up every unflattering moment from my viral existence. "Just tell the truth," the prosecutor said. "That's all we need." The trial was held in federal court in downtown San Francisco. Media circus didn't begin to describe it. Cameras everywhere, protesters on both sides, celebrity watchers hoping to spot famous faces. I arrived early on the day I was scheduled to testify, wearing a simple navy dress that Sarah had helped me pick out. Professional. Serious. Credible. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected from watching legal dramas. The Duval executives sat at the defense table in expensive suits, looking like they'd just come from a board meeting. Charlotte was in the gallery, her face a mask of composure. Vivian wasn't there. She'd negotiated immunity in exchange for testimony against the others. Smart probably. But it meant I wouldn't have to face her. I was sworn in, sat down in the witness box and looked out at the faces watching me. Reporters. Spectators. The jury, 12 ordinary people who would decide whether justice meant anything. The prosecutor stood. Miss Carter, please tell the court about your relationship with Vivian Duval. I took a breath and began. I told them everything. The wedding. The viral video. The systematic campaign of harassment. The fake evidence. The coordinated attacks. I spoke for 2 hours, and when I was done, the courtroom was silent. Then the defense attorney stood up for cross-examination. Miss Carter, she said, her smile sharp. You've become quite famous from this situation, haven't you? A television show, a book deal, speaking engagements. You've profited significantly from your victimhood. I've built a career, yes. A career built on maligning my clients. A career built on telling the truth about what happened to me. Your truth. Which you can't actually prove in many cases, can you? You can't prove those Instagram messages were fake. You can't prove every anonymous source was paid by the Duvals. No, I can't prove everything. But the pattern. We're not asking about patterns, Ms. Carter. We're asking about facts. And the fact is, you've made very serious accusations against prominent people based largely on your interpretation of events. I felt my control slipping. She was good at this, making me defensive, emotional, exactly what they wanted. Then I looked at the jury. At 12 faces watching me, some sympathetic, some skeptical, all waiting. I thought about the woman in that bridal suite. About every person who'd called my show with their own story of being destroyed by someone more powerful. About the anonymous ally who'd helped me fight back. You're right, I said calmly. I can't prove everything. I'm not a trained investigator. I'm just someone who was hurt, who found evidence of wrongdoing, and who brought it to people who could investigate properly. I looked directly at the defense attorney. But those investigators, federal investigators, found enough evidence to bring criminal charges. So maybe my interpretation was accurate after all. The prosecutor was trying not to smile. The defense attorney continued for another hour, but I stayed calm, stayed honest, stayed focused. When I was finally dismissed, I felt like I'd run a marathon. As I left the witness stand, I caught Charlotte Duval's eye. She looked at me with something that might have been respect or might have been hatred. Maybe both. I didn't care anymore. The trial lasted 3 more weeks. Other victims testified. Financial experts explained the shell companies and fraudulent transactions. Former employees described the culture of intimidation and retaliation. Vivian testified for the prosecution, confirming much of what I'd said. She looked different on the stand, older, tired, stripped of the polish that had defined her. When she spoke about planning my humiliation, her voice was flat, emotionless. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they returned, I was in the studio preparing for my show. Oliver came running in again. Guilty, he said. On all counts. All 3 executives. I sat down heavily. It's over. The criminal trial is. There will be appeals, civil suits, years of legal wrangling. But this part? Yeah. It's over. I should have felt something, relief, vindication, triumph. Dad, I just felt tired. That night, I went home to my apartment. A nicer one now, in a better neighborhood, but still modest by San Francisco standards. I poured a glass of wine and sat by the window looking out at the city lights. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize, but this time it wasn't encrypted or anonymous. It was Vivian. Vivian, I know I have no right to contact you. But I wanted you to know I testified honestly today. Not because I had to, but because it was the right thing to do. I can't undo what I did. But I can stop lying about it. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You deserved better. From all of us. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it without responding. Some apologies come too late. Some damage can't be undone with words. But at least it was over. 6 months after the verdict, I stood in front of a mirror in a dressing room, looking at my reflection. I was wearing a simple black dress, elegant but not flashy. My hair was down, natural. My makeup was minimal. I looked like myself, not the polished version I'd learned to present for cameras, but the real version underneath. Today was the last episode of the Maya Carter Truth Hour. Not because I was being cancelled or because ratings had dropped. Because I'd chosen to end it. The show had run for 18 months, had won awards, had launched my career into places I never imagined. But it had also kept me trapped in a story I was tired of telling. Every day I talked about betrayal, recovery, fighting back. Every day I relived the worst period of my life. I was ready for something new. Oliver knocked on the door. 5 minutes. You ready? Yeah. I'm ready. He came in, closed the door behind him. You sure about this? The network's offered you twice your current salary to stay. I'm sure. You've got something else lined up? Not really. I have some ideas. Projects I want to pursue. But nothing definite. That's terrifying. It's liberating. I smiled at him. Oliver, you gave me a chance when I had nothing. You let me be honest when everyone else wanted me to perform. Thank you. His eyes got a little wet. You gave me a reason to remember why I got into this business. To tell stories that matter. So thank you too. We hugged and then he left me alone to prepare. I sat in the makeup chair one last time. Roxanne came in, her tackle box of products in hand. Last day, she said. How you feeling? Scared. Excited. Both. Good. That means you're doing something real. She started on my face with practiced efficiency. You know what I've loved about working with you? You never got cynical. Everyone in this business eventually becomes a shark or a victim. You stayed human. I had help. We all have help. You actually accepted it. She finished my makeup, stepped back to assess. There. Perfect. I looked in the mirror. He was right, I looked perfect. But in a way that felt authentic now, not performative. Roxanne, what do you think happens after this? After I walk away? Honestly, I think you'll figure it out. You're one of those people who lands on her feet. She packed up her supplies. And if you don't, well, you'll have tried something brave. That's more than most people can say. I walked onto the set for the final time. The crew had decorated with balloons and a banner that said, "Thank you, Maya." It was sweet and cheesy and made me want to cry. Jennifer was there for the final episode, even though she'd moved to a different show months ago. Couldn't miss your last day, she said, hugging me. You changed this place. Made it better. The countdown started. The red light came on. And for the last time I looked into that camera and spoke my truth. 18 months ago, I came on this show to sell kitchen knives and ended up telling you about the worst day of my life. I thought I was coming here out of desperation. I didn't know I was starting something that would change my life. I took a breath. You've invited me into your homes, shared your stories, trusted me with your pain. You've taught me that I'm not alone. That humiliation and betrayal aren't unique to me. That survival is something we all do every day in big ways and small. The studio was completely quiet. But I've realized something. I can't heal if I'm constantly reliving my trauma. I can't move forward if I'm always looking back. So today is my last show. Not because I'm giving up, but because I'm ready to start a new chapter. I smiled. I don't know what that chapter looks like yet. Maybe I'll fail spectacularly. Maybe I'll succeed. Maybe I'll just live a quiet, ordinary life and that will be enough. But whatever happens, I'll do it honestly. Because that's the one thing I've learned. Honesty is the only currency that actually matters. My voice cracked slightly. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. Thank you for your calls, your letters, your stories. Thank you for reminding me that we're all just trying to survive this messy, complicated, beautiful life. I looked directly into the camera one last time. And to anyone out there who's been humiliated, betrayed, destroyed by someone more powerful, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not weak. You're human. And you're stronger than you think. The red light went off. The crew erupted in applause. People were crying, including me. Oliver came over and hugged me tightly. Hell of a run, he said. Yeah. It was. I spent the next month doing very little. I slept late. I read books that had nothing to do with self-help or recovery. I took long walks through the city without worrying about who might photograph me. I visited my mother, who was thriving in her assisted living community and had started dating a retired professor. He's boring, she told me. Talks about economics constantly. But he makes me laugh. That's good, Mom. You seem lighter, she observed. Happier. I am. I think. What's next for you? I don't know yet. And that's okay. She squeezed my hand. Both hands now, the stroke's effects almost completely healed. I'm proud of you. Not for the show or the trial or any of that. For choosing yourself. I cried a little. Thanks, Mom. Sarah and I met for our weekly coffee. She was thriving with her consulting business, had just landed a major client. So, she said, stirring her latte. Unemployed. How's it feel? Weird. Scary. Kind of great. What are you going to do? I've been thinking about the foundation. Expanding it. Really making it something substantial. People who've been publicly humiliated need more than just sympathy. They need resources, legal help, therapy, job placement. That sounds perfect for you. Maybe. I also got an offer to write a book. Not a memoir. I'm so tired of my own story. But something about how we handle public shaming in the internet age. How we can build systems that protect people instead of destroying them. You should do it. I'm scared too. Good. Do it anyway. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching people pass by outside. Young professionals rushing to meetings. Parents with strollers. Elderly couples walking slowly, hands linked. Sarah. I said. Thank you. For coming back. For helping even when it was risky. You would have done the same for me. I hope so. I know so. That's who you are. 3 months after my final show, I was at a coffee shop working on the book proposal when someone sat down across from me uninvited. I looked up, ready to politely tell them I needed privacy, and froze. It was Ethan. He looked different, thinner, with shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there before. His expensive clothes hung loose on his frame. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in the 18 months since our wedding day. Before you leave or call security, he said quickly, please just give me 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I should have left. Should have told him to go to hell. Should have done anything except what I did, which was say, 5 minutes. He let out a breath like he'd been holding it. Thank you. I know I have no right to ask for even that. You don't. So talk. I've been in therapy. A lot of therapy. Working through everything. Why I did what I did. Why I hurt you. He looked down at his hands. It doesn't excuse anything. But I wanted you to understand. I don't need to understand you, Ethan. I know. But I need to say this anyway. I was a coward. I was attracted to Vivian because she represented something I thought I wanted. Status, power, belonging in a world that always made me feel like an outsider. And I was too weak to just break up with you honestly. So you humiliated me instead. I convinced myself it would be cleaner. Quicker. That you'd move on faster if you hated me. I didn't think about the video, about it going viral, about any of the consequences. I just thought about what was easiest for me. I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized I felt nothing. Not anger, not hurt, not even satisfaction at how broken he seemed. Just nothing. Vivian left me, you know. He continued. About a month into the trial. Said I was weak, that she'd thought I was different, but I was just another man who couldn't handle pressure. He laughed bitterly. She was right. Why are you telling me this? Because I've watched you rebuild your life. Watched you become this powerful voice for truth and accountability. And I'm so ashamed that I almost destroyed that. That I almost destroyed you. You didn't destroy me, Ethan. You tried. But I didn't let you. I know. That's what kills me, not that I lost you, but that I never deserved you in the first place. He stood up. I won't bother you again. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Not because I want forgiveness. I don't deserve that. But because you deserve to hear it. He started to leave, then turned back. You're going to do amazing things, Maya. You already have. I'm glad I didn't manage to take that from you. Then he was gone. I sat there for a long time, staring at my laptop screen without seeing it. Sarah texted, how's the proposal coming? Me, Ethan just showed up and apologized. Sarah, what? Are you okay? Me, yeah. Really I am. It didn't feel like anything. Like he was a stranger. Sarah, that's growth, babe. That's you healing. Me, is it weird that I don't hate him anymore? Sarah, so. Hate takes energy. You're using yours for better things. He was right. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped defining myself by what Ethan had done to me. He'd become irrelevant to my story. I opened a new document and started writing. Not about revenge. Not about betrayal. But about resilience. About the small acts of courage people performed every day to survive their own catastrophes. About the helpers and allies who showed up when things were darkest. About choosing truth over comfort even when truth was terrifying. The words flowed easily, honestly. I wrote for 3 hours straight until the coffee shop was closing and the barista was giving me pointed looks. When I finally saved the document and closed my laptop, I felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Peace. 1 year later, I was back in a bridal suite. Not mine, Sarah's. She was marrying her partner Alex in a small ceremony in Golden Gate Park. I stood behind her, helping with her dress, and had a moment of déjà vu so strong it almost knocked me over. The last time I'd been in a bridal suite, my life had shattered. You okay? Sarah asked, catching my expression in the mirror. Yeah. Just remembering. We can take a break if you need. No. I'm good. Really? I adjusted her veil. You look beautiful. I look terrified. That too. But in a good way. She turned to face me. Maya, I need to ask you something. Are you happy? Really happy? I thought about it. About my life now. The foundation was thriving, helping dozens of people every month. The book had been published to solid reviews and decent sales. Not a bestseller, but successful enough. I'd started consulting with companies on crisis management and authentic communication. I'd been on a few dates that had actually gone well. Nothing serious yet, but possibilities that felt healthy and hopeful. I'd moved my mother into a small house near mine, where she hosted weekly dinners for her friends and constantly tried to set me up with their grandsons. I'd replaced the cracked phone finally, but kept it in a drawer. Sometimes I took it out and looked at it, a reminder of who I'd been, what I'd survived. Yeah, I told Sarah. I think I actually am. Good. Because you deserve it. She hugged me carefully, trying not to wrinkle her dress. You know what I love? That your story didn't end with revenge or vindication or any of that dramatic stuff. It ended with you just living, building a life. Is that boring? It's real. Which is better? The music started outside. Sarah took a deep breath. Ready? I asked. Ready. I walked her to the door, then took my place in the small gathering of guests. As Sarah walked down the aisle toward Alex, her face radiant with joy and nerves and hope, I felt my throat tighten. Not with sadness for what I'd lost. With gratitude for what I'd found. After the ceremony, during the reception, I stepped outside for air. The sun was setting over the park, painting everything golden. Couples walked past, families played, dogs chased balls. Ordinary life. Beautiful and messy and real. My phone buzzed. A reminder about my therapy appointment tomorrow. A text from my mother asking if I was bringing anyone to her dinner party. An email from the foundation about a new client who needed help. All the small threads of a life being lived forward, not backward. I pulled out the old cracked phone from my bag. I'd brought it with me, though I wasn't sure why. I looked at the shattered screen one last time, at the fractures that had once seemed like the end of everything. Then I walked to a trash can and threw it away. Some symbols needed to be released. Some reminders needed to be forgotten. I took out my current phone and took a photo of the sunset. Not for social media, just for me. A moment of beauty captured honestly. Sarah poked her head out the door. Hey, we're about to cut the cake. You coming? Yeah, I said, smiling. I'm coming. I walked back inside, back to the celebration, back to the life I'd built from the shattered pieces of the one that had been destroyed. And I was happy. Not because I'd gotten revenge. Not because I'd won some dramatic victory. But because I'd chosen to keep going. To keep being honest. To keep showing up for myself and the people I loved. In the end, that was the only victory that mattered.